He wasn't supposed to touch anything. Not the keyboard, not the screens, not even the desk. Just the maid's son waiting quietly while his mother cleaned the billionaire's glass palace of a home. But when an alarm started blaring and security stormed in, every camera turned toward him. The word hacker echoed down marble halls before he could even speak. No one cared who he was, just what he looked like. Yet hidden deep in that system he was accused of breaking was something only he could see. What if the boy they feared was the one saving them all?
For Marcus, the maid's son, the billionaire's mansion was a world that smelled like bleach and mummy. Clean surfaces, closed doors, and quiet rules that didn't belong to boys like him. His mother worked tirelessly, scrubbing every inch while he sat in the kitchen corner, doing homework on an old laptop that barely ran. At 15, Marcus was the kid who loved code more than conversation, fascinated by the way numbers could tell truths people ignored. Every day after school, he'd wait there, surrounded by wealth he'd never touch. Marble floors, silent elevators, digital locks on everything. He often wondered why someone needed so much security for an empty house. It wasn't jealousy, it was curiosity, the kind that made him look closer, pay attention, connect dots others dismissed. He didn't know that one afternoon his curiosity would trigger alarms, accusations, and a headline he never asked for. In a place designed to keep people like him out, Marcus was about to cross an invisible line no one warned him about.
It started with a quiet beep, then another. The billionaire's home office, normally sealed behind layers of digital security, flashed red across every monitor. A breach alert. Cameras spun toward the source, and within seconds, guards flooded the hallways. Marcus heard it all from the kitchen. The alarms, the hurried footsteps, his mother's panicked voice calling his name. By the time he looked up, they were already surrounding him, their radios crackling with words he didn't understand but could feel in their tone. Threat, intruder, breach. Someone had traced the attack back to the guest Wi-Fi, the connection he sometimes used for schoolwork. His small, outdated laptop suddenly looked like a weapon. Everyone's eyes were on him, sharp and suspicious. The billionaire's staff whispering about how these kids know how to steal things online. The billionaire himself appeared moments later, tall and polished, his expression carved from disbelief and annoyance. He didn't ask questions, he demanded answers. Marcus tried to explain that he'd noticed strange traffic on the network days ago, that he was just running a free code scanner out of curiosity, but his voice barely reached the air. The guards had already unplugged his laptop, bagged it like evidence, and escorted him toward the door. His mother pleaded, trembling, but the unspoken truth was heavy. They didn't see a bright, curious teenager. They saw someone who didn't belong. Someone suspect by default. The local news picked it up within hours. Billionaire's system hacked by employee's son. A sensational headline drenched in judgment. Marcus's schoolmates texted him with shock and gossip. Overnight, he went from the quiet kid who loved tech to the hacker from the mansion. The whispers followed him through hallways, through grocery lines, through every part of his mother's life. She was suspended from her job pending the investigation. Rent piled up. Doors that once half opened now slammed shut. And yet, beneath the fear, Marcus couldn't let go of what he'd seen that day. The odd code patterns, the files hidden deep inside the billionaire's servers. He knew something wasn't right. If someone had hacked the system, it wasn't him. Maybe they'd used his access point to cover their tracks. Maybe the breach was something bigger. Late at night, on a borrowed school computer, he started digging. The deeper he looked, the clearer it became. The system wasn't attacked. It was being drained. Billions in hidden transfers, all cloaked behind fake accounts, all funneling through foreign shells. He printed fragments, unsure what they meant, but knowing enough to realize one truth. Someone powerful was stealing from the billionaire right under his own nose. But Marcus had no proof that wouldn't incriminate him further. And after what happened, who would believe a 15-year-old black boy from the wrong side of the city? Then, one email appeared in his drafts folder, one he hadn't written. An automated update from the same system accusing him. It contained data that shouldn't have existed, showing the real breach in progress, time-stamped, undeniable. His heart raced. If he sent it, he could reveal everything, but it would expose that he'd accessed the system again. He hovered over the keyboard, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. One more keystroke, and the truth could finally surface, or his life could crumble even further.
The message went out before Marcus could take it back. One click, and the data was sent to every contact in the billionaire's firm, the board of directors, and the federal investigators tied to the case. For a breathless second, he thought the world would go silent. Then, everything shattered at once. Sirens outside, his mother crying in fear, and a pounding on the door so fierce it rattled the frame. They thought he was doubling down. Unauthorized access, the headline screamed again by morning. Security footage of him typing, edited and streamed online, stripped of context, painted him as the arrogant kid who just didn't learn. He was dragged in front of flashing cameras, questions spat like accusations, each voice louder, sharper, each headline rewriting his truth before he could even speak it. In the boardroom uptown, the billionaire watched the chaos unfold until the new data began sinking into his servers. The red flags turned into file reads, and as the numbers updated, his face changed from rage to shock. The breach stopped. The stolen billions started reverting through traceable trails. Every alert pointed not to Marcus, but to one of his own executives. The supposedly hacked account was an inside job. Marcus didn't know that yet. He sat in a cold interrogation room, small against white walls, his hands clenched so tight they ached. The detective across from him kept asking the same question. "Why did you do it?" His voice barely came out. "Because no one else would believe me if I didn't show them." Then the door burst open. A senior agent stepped in, wordless, holding a single sheet of paper, the kind that changes everything. It wasn't an arrest record. It was an apology letter drafted by the billionaire's office, acknowledging the truth. Marcus looked up, still shaking, torn between relief and disbelief. But inside, something had already changed. Because even now, when the system had finally proven him right, he knew no system had ever been built to protect him.
The billionaire went public with the truth. In a televised statement, he cleared Marcus's name, admitting the accusation had been a mistake made in panic and privilege. The media that once hunted Marcus now flooded his front lawn with microphones, wanting his reaction. But what could he say? No apology, however sincere, could undo the humiliation, the fear in his mother's eyes, or the world's quickness to believe a young black boy was guilty before a single fact surfaced. Marcus returned to school, quieter than before, but sharper too, like steel tempered by fire. The whispers faded, replaced by silence tinged with embarrassment. Still, he noticed the looks, some sorry, some skeptical, some unwilling to admit how easily they'd condemned him. That silence hurt more than the noise ever did. But something else began to grow: curiosity, respect, recognition. A local tech nonprofit offered him a scholarship. Cybersecurity experts wanted to mentor him. People were finally listening. Yet Marcus couldn't celebrate.
He kept thinking about others who never got a second chance, whose stories ended under flashing lights instead of second headlines. His mother told him that sometimes justice isn't redemption, it's revelation. And that revelation now belonged to everyone watching. Because this wasn't just about a boy wrongly accused, it was about the reflex to distrust, to blame, to stereotype. The system didn't fail. It functioned exactly as it was built, to protect the powerful and question the rest. Marcus's truth didn't just save billions of dollars, it exposed something worth far more, the cost of bias, measured not in money, but in lives, dignity, and lost potential. So the next time a headline flashes blame before proof, a face before facts, ask yourself, who are we saving? And who are we sacrificing?